It's Friday evening, it's 6 o'clock, and this is the State of Scottish Football brought to you by the State of Mind Media. I'm delighted to be joined by David Reid. David, how are you doing this Friday evening?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Colin. Looking forward to another weekend of cinch Premiership football. Can't wait.
A lovely weekend of Cinch Premiership football. Could it potentially be the last one we see this year? We'll discuss that later on, but we also have the Premier Sports Cup final to look forward to, a tasty encounter between Hibs and Celtic. I think that's where we'll start this evening, David. I think we'll start with the Premier Sports Cup final. It is the showpiece game this weekend, the 3 o'clock kickoff at Hampden. First of all, are you surprised this one's been given the go-ahead, considering what's happening with the Omicron variant in Scotland?
Not really, to be perfectly honest with you, Colin, because you look at these type of incidents, and I'm going to be brutal with you when I say this, that it's probably a lot more safer to go to a football ground at this precise moment in time. Not that I'm trying to underestimate the virus here, but it's probably a lot more safer to go to a football ground just now than it is to go to a pub or a supermarket, just to give you a few comparisons there. But no, it's got to make it to a really good cup final on Sunday. Here's hoping the fans can go and enjoy it, because there's a lot of talk about mental health and all that kind of stuff when it comes to coronavirus and all that kind of stuff. And for the fans, just go and enjoy your day. Enjoy your day. If your team wins, fantastic. Hallelujah. Enjoy your night. If your team loses, you've still had a good day. So here's hoping the fans go and enjoy their day and get to see a fantastic game of football between two sides that like to go and attack.
Yeah, I'm going to say if my team does win this cup final, I will be texting you saying hallelujah after that outburst there, Dave. But no, it was interesting hearing Nicola Sturgeon through the week saying that if they'd been given the money, this game would have been called off. So I think it is a stark warning to football fans to enjoy football whilst we've still got it, because unfortunately it looks as if someone's trying to take it away from us. So yeah, let's look ahead to the cup final whilst it's still here. Brown Warrior coming in here as a Celtic fan to say hail, hail, guys. I think we know which side of the coin Brown Warrior will be on Sunday. Let's start with the home team in this one. Hibs coming into this sitting with 3 wins in the last 12 games. The bookies have them as the 4-1 outsider. If you are putting this one on your coupon, Hibs are 4-1. The draw is 3-1, and Celtic are as short as 4-7. 3 wins in 12 have been led into this by David Gray, the cup final winning captain. David, he's obviously overseen the last few games, including that 1-0 victory over Dundee through the week. Have you noticed anything different from Hibs since the departure of Jack Ross and David Gray's kind of stepped in the interim?
Not really, to be honest. It's been a similar philosophy in terms of the style of football, but you weren't expecting anything different, if I'm going to be honest, because David Gray was part of the coaching staff that Jack Ross was implemented with anyway. But on to Sunday, and it's an opportunity for David Gray to write himself into the history books once again. We all remember, from a Celtic fan persuasion, we all remember from 2016 when he headed that winner from the Liam Henderson corner to make it 3-2 Hibs against Rangers. And he'll be looking to spoil Celtic hearts again Sunday with a win in the Premier Sports Cup final. But obviously, it's David will be under he won't be underestimating Celtic. Obviously, Celtic are a top side, and they've shown it the other night there how they can go and bounce back and show a bit of resilience by going and beating Ross County by 2-1, including scoring a late winner, which obviously at the Staggies. So Hibs, what they have shown in the last wee while, Colin, is they've shown a capability to go and get results, which maybe wasn't there or maybe kind of hindered Hibs in the last wee while, whilst there's a little bit more of a better mentality from a David Gray side to go and get that results. There was a bit of a luck on Tuesday night by a Paul McMillan own goal to go beat Dundee 1-0, and then Hibs have done okay in the last wee while. Alongside that as well, maybe disappointing draw with St Mirren in the end, but overall it's been a recurring theme in terms of playing good football and get some results. So they'll be able to keep that going on Sunday when the cup final comes around.
Interesting you speak about Paul McMillan's on goal. If you haven't seen it, after this, go and watch it. It is a fantastic diving header into the top corner. The only problem is it's in the wrong box for him. A question coming in from Brown Warrior here asking, is Kevin Nisbet fit? We are going to get to the team news very shortly, but this is Hibs' 11th League Cup final. It's their first League Cup final since the 2015-16 season, and the last time they won the trophy was back in 2007, a 5-1 victory over Kilmarnock on that day. Looking ahead to the Hibs squad, we're talking about Kevin Nisbet potentially. Will he be fit? He went off injured against Dundee in the second half. I think if David Gray has even the slightest of chances to play Kevin Nisbet on Sunday, he'll be the one that will be leading the line.
Yeah, but I'd also include Chris Carden in that as well. I'll go into Nisbet in a minute, but Chris Carden will also show a bit of creativity for Hibs, and also he came off and win on Tuesday as well, so as part of the original point. And what he does offer Carden is he offers that creativity, but also that tenacity to get the ball. But Nisbet as well, when he's on his game, he's probably he's not one of the best strikers in the Premiership, no doubt about it. He's probably Kyogo, let's put it that way. But also, when Kevin Nisbet's on his game, he is a very good threat for defenders, and he'll apologise. My phone's.
Was that a Kevin Nisbet injury update, was it?
Sorry, yeah. So no, when Kevin Nisbet's on his game, he's a very good Premiership player, can pose a lot of difficulty to opposition defences. So he's going to be a big player for Hibs if he passes his fitness test at the weekend. Because I mean, Hibs have been in the past hindered by options up front. Martin Boyle has kind of been a reliant figure for them of late, but also alongside that, when Boyle hasn't been in form, like some Nisbet popped up by a goal against St Johnstone to note a team, but alongside that, it's been few and far between. So I'm pretty sure David Gray will hope for an improvement in the attacking field of the park on Sunday, and if he does that, Kevin Nisbet will play a massive part in that.
As you say, obviously Cadden and Nisbet looking as if, or Nisbet both looking like injury doubts ahead of the game. Players that we know definitely won't make the game for Hibs: Daniel Mackay, McGuinness, Hallberg and Mackey, the latter few being some long-term absentees for David Gray's side. I mean, it does make an interesting dilemma for Hibs when you look at how they might line up. If Nisbet's fit, then you're thinking, well, that puts Martin Boyle back out on the wing. And as we've seen against Rangers, that's where he was at his most dangerous, especially in the semi-final. However, playing him through the middle could be one that interests Gray, because when you look at it and you look at the Celtic starting back four between Starfelt and Carter-Vickers at centre-half, neither of them are blessed with pace, and it could be an interesting tactic from Gray to see if he can potentially get in behind the two of them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Celtic are one of those sides that they can be a little bit vulnerable at the back when teams can get onto them. And for Hibs, they've got the capabilities of exposing the Celtic backline. And the Celtic backline will have to be very vigilant on Sunday when they play Hibs obviously in the Hampden showpiece. And if Celtic can go and contain Alexa Boyle on this, but then that's probably, I'll be honest with you, Cole, that's probably half the job done, right? But also never say to us that if Hibs can go and make a fast start to this game, like what they did in the Premier Sports semi-final against Rangers a month ago, Hibs are a totally different have a totally different dynamic to their play when they do get the nose to the front, and that's been shown on a few occasions so far this term, including that Rangers win the semi-final where they got their nose to the front and then just kept on going, had a bit more of a impetus about them, and eventually held on for the win in that day in question. So for me, it's a little cliche. Apologies for this, but the first goal is indeed vital on Sunday, and if Hibs can go and get it, they've got a massive advantage with regards to that. But no, I mean, Sunday's going to be a terrific spectacle, I think, for both sides. And here's hoping with a lot of the threats that have been coming from the politicians this week that all the fans can go and enjoy it. Because I mean, it's just threats at this moment in time. There's no set law. I'm just reminding you as fans here, there's no set law with regards to restrictions. Go out, enjoy your day, get a couple of beers in you, and hopefully your cup goes back to either the East End of Glasgow or the Leaf of Edinburgh.
I certainly will be having a few beers, as you say, David, on Sunday. Whilst we're still talking about Hibs, though, another option that potentially could come into the thoughts of David Gray this weekend is Christian Deutsch. Now, Christian Deutsch came on for Chris Cadden, who had to go off in the 21st minute against Dundee. He's someone that offers a totally different dynamic up front. He's someone who puts himself about, who could be a bit of a handful for both Starfelt and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Although he doesn't provide a lot of goals, what he can do is link up the play very well and bring someone like Martin Boyle into it. I think, obviously, Gray will want to play his strongest 11 But if there's any doubt on Nisbet's fitness or if he doesn't make it, Christian Deutsch is a good option to come in there.
Yeah, absolutely. He offers that instant threat about him as well. He's a very different dynamic to what Kevin Nisbet is. I mean, Nisbet's good in terms of the wee mazy runs that he makes. He's not exactly a James Forrest type of player, but what Kevin Nisbet does offer you is he offers that instant towards goal, whilst Deutsch is not a typical number 9 type of striker, but what he is, this Christian Deutsch is that player that you need to be wary about if you're an opposition defender. And he's going to be a big player for Hibs on Sunday. I mean, he's not exactly bagged in loads of goals for Hibs, if I could be honest about this, but also on the other side to this, he is a player that can create a threat to opposition defenders, and that's been proven with him not scoring goals, but helping other players in the team go and score their goals. So Celtic need to be wary of him on Sunday, but also from a Hibs perspective, he could be a potential match winner. It's up to David Gray to get the balance right. I mean, that was probably one thing under Jack Ross, if we're going to be very brief about this, where either through injuries or a lack of the system, lack of understanding in the system, where he couldn't get the strikers fitted into the system, and it ended up being an Achilles heel in terms of the league form for Jack Ross. So for David Gray, it's about getting it right, and if they can get it right, there's every possibility the Hibs can get the result.
Yeah, and I think the rest of the Hibs team pretty much picks itself. Matt Macy will likely start in goal. We'll see McGinn, Porteous, Hanlon at the back. Probably Lewis Stevenson in for Josh Doig. Doyle, Hayes, Newell, Boyle, Campbell. There's only a couple of spaces up for debate for David Gray at the weekend. But that's probably a good thing to have the options. It's certainly something that Ange Postecoglou would love to have. And could he have on Sunday, David? Obviously, there's been kind of very faint rumours going about that possibly James Forrest and Kyogo Furuhashi will both be fit. Ewan Boy Martin comes in to say Ange very coy about Kyogo, 100% he plays. If there's a possibility of Kyogo playing in that game, even starting or coming off the bench, is he included in the squad?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going to be honest with you, Colin. I think Ange are playing media mind games at this precise moment in time with Kyogo, because I mean Kyogo is a prized asset for Celtic at this precise moment in time. He's one of those players that can go and create and define a match-winning situation for you, and he'll be an important player for Celtic on Sunday. Make no mistake about it. And if Kyogo isn't starting, but comes on after 45 minutes when the game's still goalless 0-0, he's one of those players that will create the game within a blink of an eye, and he won't be massive. So I would have him on the bench if I'm going to be honest with you. If he starts, brilliant for every Celtic fan that will be there on Sunday, and every Celtic fan will be watching the game on the telly. But also, he is an important player, and I was touching upon it with Glenn in this show on Monday that Celtic have got a lot of big players out right now, but they're also getting the results, and that's the most important thing. I mean, if they had the players out such as Kyogo, but not getting the results, maybe a little bit of criticism would start to maybe shape in a little bit, but it's not. They're still getting the wins, but also Kyogo plays a massive part to the way this team plays, and they're a better side with Kyogo. So if he starts on Sunday, it's bingo for Celtic.
No, obviously, this is coming off the back of that 2-1 victory up in Dingwall. I was actually at the game on Wednesday night. I've got to say, in terms of being a Celtic fan, it was absolute scenes in the last minute when Anthony Ralston heads in that goal. But as you say, it's a Celtic team that find a way to win, regardless of the style of football they're looking to play. One thing that did interest me about Celtic's play on Wednesday night was the midfield three, and that was Beaton, McGregor and Turnbull. Now, I don't know if you managed to see it, because obviously the game wasn't on Sky, shockingly, once again. No games are on Sky this week. The three of them, you would say Beaton is your centre defensive mid, McGregor's your kind of box-to-box midfielder, and Turnbull's your number 10. But if you go back and watch the highlights from the first half, at times, David Turnbull's sitting as your defensive midfielder. Near Beaton is the one pushed further forward. McGregor's all over the park, and it really caught the Ross County midfield out. They didn't know where to follow, who to pick up. And that fluidity in the three of them in the midfield, it created a lot of chances in the first half, a lot that Celtic should have taken. And having someone like Lee Labada up front, who I thought actually had a very good game in the forward position, because he's very similar to Kyogo in the fact that he was chasing things down, he'd run about for 90 minutes. He's not got the same qualities as Kyogo, let's be honest, but he was an able replacement. And when you look at Dingwall, it's a very narrow pitch. Compare that to Hampden on Sunday. If they do have to go with Abada, I don't think it'll be a massive detriment to Celtic, but having the kind of key players back, that's exactly what you're looking forward to. It's an interesting one for Ange. I really don't know. Is he playing mind games? Is he being brutally honest with the fans? He's got a habit of doing this before, Dave. He done it before a big European game when McGregor and Kyogo were both massive risks, and then they turn up on the day and they start the game. Could we see that happening again on Sunday?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I mentioned in the last question there, he's very good in terms of his media management, Ange Postecoglou. I mean, when you speak to him before the game, to the broadcaster indeed written, he's got a wee wizard up his sleeve, sorry to put an Australian pun in there, but and when it's after the game as well, he's always got a wee trickery up his sleeve as well, with that as well. Well, it's a Wizard of Oz, I suppose. He's always going to create a bit of magic out of nowhere, but yeah, with regards to Sunday, I mean, it's kind of maybe a good thing, kind of keeping your thoughts to one side and keeping your thoughts very quiet, away from the public and keeping away from external matters, keep the whole thing internal. And then on Sunday, it's kind of a wee bit of a surprise opposed onto Hibs. I mean, Hibs will create a game plan probably without Kyogo, without other big prized assets in the Celtic side. And, it'll be a bit of a fight for David Gray, when he probably looks at his Celtic team line if indeed Kyogo and other big players in the midfield and forward areas do go and start on Sunday. So I'm going to be honest with you here, Colin. I think Conor McGregor's got a big game in him on Sunday. Because the way Hampden Park is, the way he can play the ball, the way he can get other players involved in the game. I think he's got a big game in him on Sunday. And Hibs aren't exactly the most dynamic type of teams in terms of the midfield area. So if you can get McGregor and yes, Rogic in particular, I know there's Trimble as well. If you can get McGregor and Rogic on the ball, then yeah, absolutely, you can get Hibs exposed. That'll lead to goals and hopefully Premier Sports Cup success for Celtic.
Well, we know the players that will be missing this game for Celtic. They are Jota, Georgios Giakoumakis, the long-term injuries we have, Dembele, Ayeti and Julien. Do you remember Christopher Julien? Big, tall French guy that used to play for Celtic. He's now pretty much a model just for the club. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
I don't know where he is these days. Who knows? I don't know if he'll ever kick a ball for the club again. 35th League Cup final for Celtic. They have 19 wins out of their 34 so far. The last time these two teams met in a League Cup final was back in 1974-75. Do you know the interesting stat about that game, David?
I'm assuming Celtic won.
Celtic won 6-3, and there was hat-tricks that day for both Dixie Deans and Joe Harper. So a hat-trick for Joe Harper for Hibs, a hat-trick for Dixie Deans for Celtic, goals from Jimmy Johnston, Murray and Wilson as well, as they ran out 6-3 winners.
Colin, sorry, we better clarify to the supporters why we weren't on yesterday. Scott House just came up with a question here.
Yeah, so we had some technical difficulties yesterday with StreamYard, and that's unfortunately why we weren't on yesterday. But we have got ourselves back in, and we are live tonight. So we will be back next Thursday with the team, and they will be looking forward to, well, I'd imagine this will be a Christmas episode this time next week. I don't think us two will be on next Friday, will we? Not on Christmas Eve.
No, we'll have to review another game for Hibs. Celtic play midweek?
Celtic are playing on Wednesday night against St Mirren. Potentially. We'll get to that in a bit.
There we go. Lovely.
So yes, the first meeting of these two since 1974-75 in the League Cup final. Celtic's first final in 2 years, unfortunately. Due to COVID last year, the 1-0 victory over Rangers, and the goal coming from that aforementioned French model, Christopher Julien. Look, both teams had very comfortable semi-finals, let's be honest. Hibs with a 3-1 win over Rangers. Celtic's 1-0 victory, although it doesn't seem comfortable, was more comfortable if you were actually watching it. Martin McBride coming in here to say, I wanted yous on Christmas Day, guys. I'm so sad. Well, we'll maybe pre-record something. We'll see what we can do this week. Dave, we'll need to find some time in the calendar. Look, this is David Gray's last game, potentially, as you look at the incoming Sean Maloney and Gary Caldwell coming in as the management duo at Hibs. What's your thoughts on that appointment? It's a bit of a gamble for Hibs, do you not think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with what John Hughes said on the radio Tuesday night when he mentioned that Shamon is a really good coach and he's got a really good football player about him. But also, the thing that might hold him back a little bit is he doesn't have a personality in terms of character and all that kind of stuff, which I can kind of understand where John is coming from to an extent. Because, I mean, all the top managers in the past, whether it's been one of the big Glasgow two or indeed another like Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, blah, 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 they've all said a bit of a personality, but so I can kind of understand where John is coming from. But I mean, Sean Maloney, aside from that, he has a very good football brain. Worked with Martinez, worked with Thierry Henry. I mean, it can't get better than that. Could it call you working with Kevin De Bruyne every 3-6 months? So that's got to be absolutely brilliant for itself. Eden Hazard, oh mate, it's like having champagne in a cruise. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. But then, yeah, I mean, been a really good appointment. And also, you've got Gary Caldwell alongside him. I think we'll know how I'm trying to be a little bit point here in terms of when I say boring, but boring in terms of not boring football philosophy, but boring in terms of football whenever he speaks in the media. But in terms of football philosophy, I'm pretty sure, Colin, that he would have a good football philosophy before Sean Maloney takes him on board, because I mean Sean Maloney has been there and done that. So I think it'd be a good appointment for Hibs. It would be an appointment that is a little bit out of the box a little bit, and I think it's an appointment Hibs need at this moment in time. But also on the other side, Jack Ross put up a really good report with his Hibs players, so that'll be the first priority for Maloney and Caldwell, if they do eventually get appointed after the cup final. They will need to build up a really good relationship with the players and then get some much needed wins on the board. And I'm actually hoping Maloney gets the job, because his first game, if he does get the job, will be my game away to Dundee United the week on Sunday.
I'm sure you'll have plenty of questions to ask the incoming Hibs manager. I was actually speaking with Matty Fernie of the Long Bangers, which is a Hibs podcast, on with Scott McPike on SM Media, which you can catch after this. We recorded that earlier in the week ahead of a League Cup final preview, similar to what we're doing. And I asked them about who the candidates really were. And Sean Maloney's name came in, but also someone that the Hibs fans thought they had a chance of picking up is actually the Bodo Glimt manager. They actually thought that they could potentially have brought him to the club. There was also talks of former American manager, former, I think it's Swansea City manager, Bob Bradley was named with the job as well. I think they had more chance of Brad Bobley, if I'm being perfectly honest, but It's certainly an interesting time to be a high beat at the minute. I know we've got a couple here on the channel, and Maloney is something different from Hibs. It's a different route they're going down from where they have been before. So it'll be interesting to see. And one of the things I think we're kind of underestimating potentially here is the appointment of Gary Caldwell, because Gary Caldwell is currently the loans manager for Manchester City. So his job is to kind of keep an eye on the players that are out on loan, the youngsters that are coming through, to make sure that their loan contracts are being upheld by their parent clubs and by their kind of loan clubs. And I think if you bring someone like that in, considering the scouting knowledge that the City group's got, we could see a couple of young gems making their way up to Easter Road in January.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you also get with Gary Caldwell is he's had a really good management career so far. Maybe like Partick Thistle didn't exactly work out for Caldwell. That's understandably a debate to go and conjure up. But also on the other side to this, he has built up some really good contacts. He did a good job with Wigan in England, and then worked with a League One club. I can't remember which one it was, but I mean, he's got some good contacts up in England, and that's something that you need to work in Scottish football. You need your Scottish football pedigree, and understandably so. But also, you need a contacts book or people to go work with in England, because if you can get that in, that's a massive bonus. Because I mean, England's a massive market for Scottish football in terms of the players you can bring in. And Scottish football's got a lot of good talent in it, but English football also has some good talent. And it's a different calibre of talent as well. So, I mean, it's a really good balance, I think, what Hibs are providing here. I mean, John Potter and Jack Ross did a really good job, but I think we're seeing something a little bit different with Maloney and Caldwell, and here's hoping it's a success for Hibs.
Well, hopefully not starting on Sunday, and that's me just
No, of
being
course.
completely biased there. But yeah, let's. It's time to go off the fence. We're 25 minutes in. It's time for the big prediction for the big game, and I'm throwing it to you first, David. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. Two good sides, good spectacle, as you've alluded to, very good pitch. I'm going to go for 2-1 Celtic.
2-1 Celtic. Now, I would say this game has the potential to be like a basketball match, end to end. I don't think Hibs will sit in. I really do think they'll come out and have a go at Celtic. You've got that forward line of Boyle and Nisbet potentially to cause Celtic a bit of trouble. Where the questions come into the selection for Ange Postecoglou is whether Kyogo will be fit up front or Forrest will be fit up front, whether you will play Juranovic or Ralston at right back. Certainly a couple of discussions, potentially even Scales or Taylor at left back. We don't know who will slot in there. I'd like to think Celtic will be able to get the job done in 90 minutes. You look at it, Hibs have had quite a poor run of form, 3 wins in 12 as compared to Celtic's 10 wins in 12 in all competitions. You just know that in a cup final, the form book goes completely out the window. And if the Hibs team turn up, then they could make it very difficult for Celtic. Although on that, I've kind of wallied my way around kind of avoiding the fact of saying that I went with the exact same scoreline. I'm going to go with 2-1 to Celtic. 2-1 Celtic. Let us know what your predictions are in the comments section. Scott Howe comes in saying 3-1 to Celtic. Mark McBride coming in to say 3-1 Celtic. Martin Jock Johnston 2-0 to Celtic. Ewan Boy Martin comes in with an interesting one. He's going back to 1974-75. I can see his scoring 6, maybe concede 1 or 2. Why not 3, and we'll go for a complete replica of the scoreline. Johnny V 3-1 Celts, and Martin Jock Johnson comes in again to say Joe Hart will be man of the match. Joe Hart's certainly been a calming influence in that Celtic team since his appointment, and I think he's proved a lot of people wrong, David, that I think a lot of people had kind of written him off before he even made the trip up the M6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he's been a very big player, and he'll be putting another big performance on Sunday. And I mean, what you get from Joe Hart is a figure that he'll keep clean sheets for you, but also a captaincy figure. And Regan Stevenson touched it perfectly on Wednesday night. He's one of those players that he isn't the captain, but secretly he is a captain. And that's the thing with Celtic right now. They've got a lot of leaders, and if they're going to win on Sunday, he'll be a massive part to play in that.
Speaking of captaincy, I'd imagine Cal McGregor will be looking forward to the opportunity to win his first trophy as the captain of Celtic. And again, you look at the Hibs team, lots of kind of players that have been there and done that before. So it has the potential to be a fantastic game of football. So that is your Sunday 3 o'clock game. It is live on Premier Sports. It is the Premier Sports Cup final between Celtic and Hibs. Hibs being the home team, so they'll be probably in the green and white. Celtic, now that's an interesting one. Celtic, when they went to Easter Road a couple of weeks ago, had to play in last season's black kit. That'll be an interesting one to see if they have to do that again with the colour clashes.
I mean, if they do, it'd be fantastic. I mean, if it brings a bit of luck, then fine for myself, persuasion. But if they go lose the game, then we all know where that's going, straight in the bin.
Absolutely. So Sunday 3 o'clock, if you are going along, do take care, stay safe. We do know what's going on in the world at the moment, so I will be there, and we will be discussing it on Monday's episode of the State of Scottish Football. We get 4 other games in the Cinch Premiership, a wee bit of Cinch to discuss now, Dave. First of all, we will start with the game at Ibrox on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff for this one. Rangers versus Dundee United. Now, before we get into the odds, we will see what happens here with this game. Is this going ahead, David? Have we heard anything otherwise? Dundee United obviously having a COVID outbreak this week. Their training ground closed. Do you think this one will go ahead?
I no danger. It was confirmed by Dundee United at the presser yesterday that the game's going ahead, and I mean it's got the makings of being a really good game. I mean Rangers will be continue the winning run whilst Dundee United are looking to respond. But the thing about Dundee United is training's been altered, but it's not been cancelled, so it has the makings of being a really good game at Ibrox tomorrow.
It's interesting. The bookies see this one as Rangers being the 1-9 favourites, 8-1 for the draw, and I guess considering the COVID outbreak and the injuries that Dundee United have, they are incredibly 22-1 for this game on Sunday. So Rangers coming off the back of a 2-0 victory over St Johnstone. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst remains undefeated in the Cinch Premiership so far. Alfredo Morelos with 4 goals in 5 games. What do you make of Van Bronckhorst since he's come into Rangers? They've really got that new manager bounce, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, by all accounts, the relationship between Rangers and Gerrard got a little bit, not toxic, but got a bit hot and it boiled over a little bit. Whilst Van Bronckhorst been a bit of a fresh air for the Rangers players and the whole football club as a whole. I mean, they're playing a similar style of play, and it's still continuing to see benefits for Van Bronckhorst's side. And I mean, they've had some difficult assignments of late, but they're still passing through them with flying colours and still getting the results required in order to still be top of the league, of course. But of course, leagues aren't won at Christmas. This is another important game for Rangers tomorrow, where they welcome a Dundee United side. And probably be a bit of revenge involved with this, considering Dundee United beat Rangers at Tardis early in the season. So it's for Rangers, it's a big game. For Dundee United, it's a big game. And here's hoping we get some exciting Cinch Premiership stuff tomorrow at Ibrox.
I think there'll be 2 sort of key players to this game. I think Morelos up front, if he can continue this form that he's managed to rediscover under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, and Benjamin Siegrist. Now, I was at Tannadice a couple of weeks ago. You were there as well, David, when Celtic went. And when you look at the amount of shots on target that Celtic had that day, Siegrist was the one that kept Dundee United in the game for long, long periods of the time. And if he can do that at Ibrox and he can unsettle the Ibrox faithful, then you just don't know what could happen. But looking at it, it's going to be a young team that they play tomorrow. Quite a few players out injured. Callum Butcher suspended. It's a very tough task that Dundee United have to go to Glasgow tomorrow.
Yeah, I think tomorrow's going to be a bit of a true complexion where Dundee United are at just now, to be brutally honest. I mean, Dundee United started the season off very well after the paternity disappointment against Aberdeen by beating Rangers and going on a very good run, and it was kind of a springboard for Tam Courts' side after that, but they've kind of dwindled down a little bit. It's 1 win and 9. I think they're, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's 4 straight losses or 3 straight losses.
Yep.
So yeah, it's not going to be easy by any stretch. And if Dundee United can go and get a result of any sort, I'm pretty sure the Rangers fans will be quick to be critical towards the team on social media if Dundee United can get some sort of result. But if Dundee United can achieve the unthinkable, when I say unthinkable, because not a lot of people's obviously giving them a chance tomorrow, then it will be a big result for Dundee United Football Club. But I mean, for Dundee United, they've kind of lost the ethos that kind of helped them at the start of the season. And last Saturday helped Dundee United very much, because I mean, it was a game. It's obviously a game decided by penalties, obviously with Obolai scoring. So yeah, tomorrow's another big game, and it'll be a test of Dundee United's mentality, where they've got such a young squad. Will they be able to cope with like Morelos and Kent and Aribo for 90 minutes? That's the question we'll find out at 4:45 tomorrow afternoon.
We're going to touch on Aribo in a minute, because he's receiving a lot of praise recently, and quite rightly so. He's having a very good season for Rangers, and it could be understandable why Rangers don't want him to go to the African Cup of Nations, which is coming up next month. But I want to stick with Dundee United just for a second. So obviously Callum Butcher is suspended for this game after his tackle on David Turnbull at that match we were just discussing. Last night at the Hydro in Glasgow, there was a gig. It was the Open Goal Christmas party.
Yeah.
And we'll speak about that later on as well. But one of the hosts of that show last night was Charlie Mulgrew. Now, he was on stage with Paul Slane and Paolo Di Canio, Graham Souness, etc. If you're Tam Courts, are you not slightly annoyed at that? The fact that a couple of days before a big game, considering everything that's going on in the world right now, and he's kind of mingling with people that's out with his squad, I don't know. For me, it just didn't sit right.
Well, we'll get on to it. I'm sure. But I'm pretty sure he'd have asked Tam Courts for permission, because if you go across the road in Dundee, there's one gaffer very much unhappy at this precise moment in time with one of his players. So on to this one first and foremost, and I'm pretty sure this was all prepared and all sorted out before last night's show. I'm pretty sure Mulgrew was asked to do special contingency plans, following every guideline possible. I'm pretty sure he has done, or else Dundee United probably would have set as strong a precedent as the neighbours across the road have, with a certain player that we'll get on to. But also, alongside this, yeah, I do agree with you. It's a big game against Rangers this Saturday. Charlie Mulgrew is probably one of the most important players at this precise moment in time playing in Dundee United jersey. You need all your big players possible. If Dundee United are to get some sort of result, you need a little bit of composure in your players, a little bit of professionalism in your players, and Charlie Mulgrew is more than capable of doing that. And by the way, just to clarify, Charlie Mulgrew here, Colin, I know obviously we're reluctant in time, but I mean, the Newcastle players were in, the Dundee United players, begging pardon, were in Newcastle at the weekend on a Christmas night, obviously, as we've well and truly understood over the last 48 hours. And apparently the most amount of shenanigans they got up to was watching the Formula 1 on Sunday, which is very unknown to Charlie Mulgrew, because I know how he loves a drink, he loves a night out.
Well, I was at the previous open goal gig, and let it be said that Charlie Mulgrew enjoys a couple of beers or two, and had a far better touch than what he normally does have after a couple of beers. If anybody's seen that video, a boy launches a ball in for the middle of the crowd and he controls it with a plum. Outstanding. But yeah, just for me, it just didn't sit right. I'm not talking about the Formula 1 result for the weekend. I was delighted with that, but the idea of going away in a Christmas party and then him being at the Hydro last night, and we'll talk about Jason Cummins being there as well. I just think with everything that's going on right now, you just kind of eliminate any sort of risk that you've got, because if you miss that game, it's not just that game, you're going to be missing 3 or 4, considering the kind of fixture build-up you've got at Christmas time. And for me, it just wasn't the wisest idea, considering what Dundee United had been through that week. But as you said, very likely he's been given the go-ahead by Tam Courts, otherwise there's no chance he would have been at the Hydro last night at all.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, if had he picked up COVID in that particular situation, or had a ping in his phone saying track and trace self-isolation, that's him out for Christmas and probably him out for tomorrow and probably for him 6 Sunday.
Exactly. Back to Rangers. Definitely out of this game is Kemar Roofe and Ryan Jack. Both of them look as if they'll be out until the end of the January transfer window. Talking about January, though, we do have the African Cup of Nations coming up, and it looks as though Balogun, Aribo and Bassey will be set to be called up by Nigeria. Now, the players will still make the Glasgow Derby on January 2nd. That has been confirmed. But considering the situation in the world right now, is it the best idea for these players to be going to the African Cup of Nations? I know there's a bad precedent to be set in terms of, well, why couldn't they go? Why shouldn't they go? They can go and play Champions League. They can go play Europa League. But again, just going back to the same thing with Charlie Mulgrew going to the Hydro, it's just a risk they don't need to take right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, for these players or for these countries, you'd like to think there'll be a relationship getting locked up between Rangers and the specific countries that are associated for likes of Aribo and other African players that are going away. So you'd like to think there was some sort of communication, some sort of transparency between the two parties. Like, what's the idea when you're flying out? What plans are in place when they're there? You'd like to think that's all sorted out well before the 2nd of January, but also from the Rangers Football Club perspective, you also look at this by saying that they'll need to have everything in play, because the last thing they want is repercussions in terms of players are going away, then by the end of January they test positive for the virus, and that's players out for 2, 3, even 4 big games. So there's understandably a lot of questions on both sides of the fence here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this one. And I mean, as we mentioned earlier, Aribo's definitely been Rangers Player of the Season so far. I saw that touch that he brought down in the game midweek, the one that was coming down with snow on it, and he brought it down first time. It was outstanding. He was ranked the 2nd best player in Scotland by the Daily Record the other day as well. Callum McGregor was rated number 1. He's a massive asset to Rangers right now, and to even risk him to go away to the African Cup of Nations, whichever country it's been held in, because I haven't done my research, I'll be honest. But just travelling right now doesn't seem like the right idea.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of restrictions for us as the general public, for that matter, with regards to us maybe even going away to like France or Germany, just to give you 2 countries as an example there. So for players to be flying out to Africa in a country that can be contagious to an extent, not in terms of the virus, but contagious in terms of other things. It is a president's set. It is one of those where you look at it and say everything needs to be meticulous in terms of preparation, how you're getting there, how you're playing games, what you're doing, staying in the bubbles, blah, blah, blah. So there is a lot for the clubs and indeed the countries to take into consideration here.
I wonder if that came up in the conversation between Ange and Gio the other day when they met in a Glasgow dinery for lunch. Let's go for our predictions for this because we've got another 3 games to cover. I honestly think with the way that Dundee United are coming into this, they've got, 6 players out injured, they've got Butcher suspended, quite a few young players are going to make that trip to Ibrox on Saturday. Rangers are going in there in very good form. They know where the back of the net is. I just don't see it going any other way than a Rangers victory, and I think it will be quite comprehensive. I'm going for a 4-0 Rangers win.
Yeah, Dundee United haven't scored now, so I'm going to be polite towards Dundee United and say 3-1 Rangers.
3-1 Rangers. And as you said, that would probably be the revenge for the defeat at Tannadice earlier in the season. We have 3 more games to cover, and the first of those is in the City of Discovery. It is Dundee versus third placed Hearts. If you're putting this one on the coupon, Dundee are 3-1. The draw is 12-5. And for me, I think this is the banker of the weekend. Hearts are evens. Evens for this one.
That's a great place.
Now, we're going to get on to Dundee's problems in a minute. Let's start with Hearts. Josh Ginnelly suspended for this one after his red card against Rangers in the 2-0 defeat at Tynecastle. Benny Beningame still out injured. Apart from that, Hearts pretty much have a full squad to pick from. As I said, Andy Halliday was part of that open goal thing last night as well. Maybe not the wisest decision, but I'm sure he did have his manager's approval. 1,200 Hearts fans look to make the trip to Dens Park. This was a game, David, that until probably a couple of hours ago was pretty much in doubt, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, first and foremost, I must say, Dundee Football Club have played a blinder running the press conference at 9 o'clock this morning because we'll get on to it in a minute. But had that been at 12:30, I think it would have been a very Friday press conference. So I'll put that out there to start things off here. But yeah, this game was in doubt this morning because, I mean, Dundee were awaiting news from a positive COVID case, not within the Dundee bubble, but somebody from the Dundee bubble being in close contact with somebody with the Dundee bubble who tested positive. Just try to be basic there. But yeah, I mean, the game's going ahead now, and I mean, it's going to be a Dundee side that will be massively depleted heading tomorrow. No Charlie Adam, no Cummings, no Ryan Sweeney, no Lee Ashcroft, no Sean Byron. That's 5 massive players for Dundee tomorrow. But for Hearts, it's well. Be professional and get all 3 points. So it has to make us a really good game tomorrow at Dens. And I'll be honest with you, Colin, but said if Hearts have any ambitions in European football, this is a type of games they need to be winning. 5-player Dundee just now. Obviously, the likes of Motherwell and Aberdeen have picked up in recent times, but if Hearts have any lofty European ambitions, such as what they're showing so far this season, this is a massive game for Hearts tomorrow in the City of Discovery.
Yeah, and Dundee also have injury doubts over Marshall and Anderson. We'll see whether they start. Coming out and saying you've only got 12 fit players, it's not exactly the way you want to be going into the weekend. And I guess that was before Jason Cummins was suspended from the club today. So potentially only 11 fit players for James McPake's side as they face Hearts at the weekend. For me, I think if you can still get evens for that Hearts team, then you get yourself on it this Friday evening. Look, Hearts are looking to bounce back after that 2-0 defeat to Rangers. Dundee, a team that are not so much in turmoil with results, but in turmoil off the park. I just don't see this going any other way. Dave, convince me Dundee have a chance here.
Okay. Right, okay. Paul McMullen and Luke McCowan. If Dundee have any chance of getting a result tomorrow, it's those 2 players I've mentioned. Apart from that, I'm thinking of no other clear situation here. Wade Griffiths maybe having a blinder of a game, but we all know the way Griffiths of this season, a guy that's off the boil. So that's the only 2 permutations I'm thinking about here. Paul McMullen and Luke McCowan. Apart from that, Hearts will get a result of some magnitude.
Dundee obviously had a wee bit of form over the last couple of weeks before the sort of last two results. And someone that was key to that was Danny Mullen up front. But it turns out that if he's not scoring them in one goal, he's putting them in up the other end as well, scoring an own goal in the 3-2 defeat to Ross County. Obviously, he came off at Ibrox and on came Lee Griffiths, but Lee Griffiths was lucky to stay on the park. You look at that Dundee team, and if you're James McPake, you must be pulling what hair you've got left out, because the players, they can't seem to control themselves off the park. They can't seem to control themselves on it. What is going on?
Yeah, and to answer your last question, sorry, Ryan Sweeney's also suspended for tomorrow, which means Dundee only have one recognised centre-half. So that just further adds to the problems for James McPake for tomorrow. And I doubt the man will sleep tonight. Let's put it that way. And let's be honest. I mean, Charlie Adam, to start off with, I made this point to quite a few people today. Right, Dundee play Hearts tomorrow. Right, the question is, I'll try and be brief with this because we've only got 15 minutes left, and I don't want to start ranting. Right, Dundee play Hearts tomorrow. Jason Cummins is out pissed. Drinking 48 hours before the game. Sorry, I'd try to swear there. Dundee and Jason Cummins is playing a game 48 hours before the game, and he's apparently on the open goal stage, absolutely blitzed out of his mind. I speak to Regan Stevenson about this, and he can clarify for me. So there we go. So there was that. Charlie Adam as well. Obviously, the incident involving the tree on Sunday evening. Early hours on Monday morning, where he was at an ex-Celtic goalkeeper's house. I won't name the Celtic goalkeeper out of respect here, but he was basically driving on his way home, by all accounts, and went to a tree, and there we go, and then getting arrested. So there's been a bit of clamour on social media, understandably so, that both should be getting sad, but I don't think it's the right way for Dundee Football Club to go, if I'm going to be brutally honest, because I mean, it would set a precedence, and it would leave both players in the dole. Obviously, there's the other side to this where we're going to say, right, they've committed very serious offences here, but Jason Cummings isn't aware of a serious offence, so Dundee Football Club need to do something, but I don't think sacking them's the right way.
And Dundee seem to be the team of second chances when you look at some of the players that they've brought in over the years. I mean, they even played players that were still wearing a tag, so I don't think that you'll find that they'll let Charlie Adam or Jason Cummins go for these breaches, but if you're looking at the reputation of Dundee Football Club, it's definitely taken a battering over the last week or so. And I don't think that this result on Saturday will help them either. They've started to make their move away from the bottom of the table, but I think this result will push them back down there. If I'm going to make my prediction for this game, I fancy Hearts at evens to win 3-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0. Yeah, I can't say Dundee scoring. I'm rolled at a time here. I'm going to go and say, I'm going to agree with you here, Colin. 3-0 Hearts.
3-0 Hearts. Let us know what your predictions are. If you are watching, give us a thumbs up. It's a nice way to support the channel, and a lovely conversation going on here about the height of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst in the comments section. Feed the Bear Brown Warrior and Martin Jock Johnson having a bit of fun there. We get 2 games left to cover in the Cinch Premiership. First one of those is at Fir Park on Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff, as Motherwell take on St Johnstone. And do you know what? I've changed my mind. The banker of the weekend is Motherwell. Motherwell are 5-4 at home against St Johnstone. The draw is 11-5, and St Johnstone are 12-5. Now, I guess potentially this has changed since the news broke earlier on today that the top goal scorer in the Cinch Premiership, Tony Watt, has turned down the contract extension at Motherwell. What's your thoughts on that, Dave?
Yeah, I can kind of understand where Tony Watt's coming from, because I mean, as he well and truly touched upon to myself and various other journalists after defeating Dundee United recently, he's not going to be an electrician and he's not going to be an engineer when he retires from the game. And he's definitely not going to be an accountant or receptionist in an office. So he needs a last payday, as far as I'm concerned, just to keep him and the wife happy and the kids happy. So I kind of understand where he's coming from. Motherwell have been really good to him. He's scored some fantastic goals for Motherwell, a variety of goals. He's got his career back up and running at Motherwell. It's been a good stepping stone for him. Where's the next route for him? Time will tell. I think he would do a job in England, probably the second tier in England. He would do a job for most clubs here in the Cinch Premiership here in Scotland. So there will be options for Tony Watt. It's about getting the right club. But also for Tony Watt Motherwell, it's about making sure he ends the season in a high and make sure there's no any mutual relationships ending early or Tony Watt going in a week goal drought between now and the end of the season.
Well, that's the thing. So this is his second highest goal return this season, which is 10 goals. His previous best is 11 for a total season. And we're sitting here on December 17th, ahead of probably 3 or 4 more difficult games for Motherwell between now and the winter shutdown. And your top goal scorer turns around and says he wants to leave the club. For me, I don't see any other way that Tony Watt is still here come, the 5th of May when the last game of the season is. If your top goal scorer's turned around and said to you in December that he wants to leave the club, his contract's not going to be renewed, how do you back a guy like that and suggest that he's got the heart to carry it on throughout the season? And if you're Motherwell, a community-run club, knowing that he's only got 6 months left on his deal, you're wanting to take as much money as possible as you can get in January because he'll walk away from Motherwell. And yes, Motherwell's been good to him, but he's not really been good to Motherwell here. He could walk away in a free.
Absolutely. I mean, walking away in a free would be a travesty for Motherwell in the way because he is a top player for the Steelmen. He offers a lot of good asset to that club. So Tony Watt leaving in a free would just be unthinkable for Motherwell right now. But also, if I'll give you a prime example here, if an Aberdeen, a Hibs, or a St Johnstone, just to give you, or a Hearts even came in for Tony Watt right now and got him in a free, it would be the best bit of business they've done in a very long time. So Motherwell need to play their cards right here, I think.
What fee are you talking, do you reckon, for Tony Watt in January, considering he's only got 6 months left in his deal?
6 figure, 100,000 maybe, 200.
It'd be interesting. I think Aberdeen could do worse than put a bid in for Tony Watt, considering some of the striking options that they've not really had. Could he be the perfect partner alongside Christian Ramirez up front? Might be an interesting one. He's been to Hearts before, it didn't really work for him. Maybe going up there and working alongside his former teammate in Scott Brown could be the next move for him. St Johnstone, where do we start? 1 win in 9 games, bottom of the table, albeit with a game in hand. 9 goals in 17 games. What has happened to this side? The double cup winners of last season and potentially right now the favourites for relegation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, me and Regan touched on it on Wednesday night with regards to Ali Crawford and how he's not made the same impact as Ali McCann has. And I'll be honest with saying, Ali McCann until the last few weeks, I didn't realise how much of a miss he's been to this Johnston side, just in terms of creativity, but also Jason Kerr at the back. He was such a good defensive player for the Colin Davidson side, and he's been a massive miss for them as well. And I mean, Johnston have kept the same players and the same system in play. Just added a couple of players to also fit the jigsaw, but apart from that, they've struggled. They've struggled to rejuvenate the heights of last season. It was always going to be a struggle, but St Johnstone had their own ambitions this season. They wanted European football again, and they're well short of where they want to be right now. So for St Johnstone, this is a big game for them at Motherwell, and also it'll be a good stepping stone for the Saints because they've obviously got Ross County on Wednesday night at Dermot Park. So it's an opportunity to create a bit of mistletoe and wine hen at Christmas.
10 shots on target in the last 6 games. That's not each game, that is in total. 10 shots on target, and you wonder why they've only got 9 goals for the whole season. Callum Davidson, is his jacket on a sugary peg right now? Or do you think Steve Brown's kind of saying, well, we remember what happened last season, we'll give you as long as you need to turn it around, we'll give you the January transfer window?
I think you'll get a January transfer window, and then probably Valentine's Day March period is when St Johnstone start to make tough decisions.
It'll be interesting to see how that one goes. As I said, Motherwell 5-4 for this one, 11-5 for the draw, and 12-5 for St Johnstone. Again, I just think this is a fairly predictable one of how this one's going to go. Wait and see, I'll be proved wrong tomorrow, but I fancy Motherwell to win this one and win it quite comfortably. Graham Alexander's men have the chance to go, I think it's 4th after this. They're currently 5th on goal difference. 2-0 Motherwell.
2-1 Motherwell.
A goal for St Johnstone. That's almost asking for them to win.
Hold on. Yeah, good shout. Because I've just remembered Chris Cade's in the self-isolation list right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for 2 Motherwell, yeah.
I mean, if you're not scoring goals, how do you expect to win a game of football?
Exactly.
It's terrible, absolutely terrible. I can see why they're the favourites now to go down. I don't think they're the bookies' favourites, but I think if you're watching football this year, then St Johnstone are the favourites at the minute.
Yeah, no,
One
totally.
game left, and we've got 5 minutes to go through it. It is Livingston versus Ross County at the Spaghetti Ad. Livingston, if you're putting this one on, 13-10, 5-2 the draw, 2-1 for Ross County. Livingston coming into this off the back of back-to-back wins against Hibs and Dundee United. Incredibly, considering the start that Livingston had, Dave, they're only 5 points off the top 6 now.
Yeah, exactly. And if they go and win tomorrow, they're only 1 point behind Hibs. Okay, Hibs and Aberdeen aren't playing this weekend, of course. But if Livingston win tomorrow, they're 1 point behind Hibs, they're 2 behind Aberdeen, and we're expecting them to win tomorrow, obviously. But they're only 3 behind Dundee United, and if Motherwell win tomorrow, they're only 6 behind Motherwell. So it shows how much of a difference they've made in the last 3 while. And, I mean, Livingston have came in and got some big results of late, and if they can get that win tomorrow, I think it'll set a wee bit of a difference between Livingston and the other teams in the table, which can be massive at this stage of the season, where teams are battling for points and teams will go and drop points. So for Livingston, it's about getting momentum and getting those results and setting a bit of a statement to an extent that we're not here to be rolled over. We've maybe not got big goal scorers in our team, or we've maybe not got big leaders in our team, but what we do have is a good team togetherness, and that's been shown with some of the results in the league so far this season. If they can go and get a result tomorrow, then it's absolutely massive for them in terms of setting their president's hint at the Christmas period.
Now, we're speaking about teams at the bottom of the table. Obviously, this is a bit of a basement battle on Saturday at the Spaghetti Ad. Ross County 2-1 defeat to Celtic on Wednesday night. We've already spoke about how the game was, but the comment that still kind of riled me isn't the 6 minutes added on time. It's Malky Mackay getting his calculator out and working out that there was 3,000 Celtic fans on the pitch, considering there wasn't even 3,000 Celtic fans at the game. So they must have infiltrated the Celtic end. The stewards need to do better, David.
Well, I told you off air that I went for a nap and got up with 10 minutes to go to the show, and I actually didn't realise until the show kicked off that Ross County had indeed put out a statement. No, you're right with regards to that. I mean, the stewarding needs to be better. I can understand where certain senior figures at Ross County are coming from with regards to people getting bullied, and I say bullied because it doesn't seem like too much. I know there's obviously maybe injuries and all that kind of stuff which you need to take into consideration, but alongside that, the stewarding needs to be better. I mean, could the situation have been better? Yes, 100%. That's what people are paid to do ultimately.
To be honest, I was joking. I was meaning the fact that Celtic fans made their way into the home end, apparently, going by Malky Mackay's calculation. But I reckon Malky Mackay probably sent more dodgy texts than how many Celtic fans were on the pitch on Wednesday night. So maybe he should look at who he's... I'm doing a Charlie Nicholas here. He who is without sin should cast the first stone. Remember that one, Malky. Look, Ross County picked up 8 points out of 12 before Wednesday night. They're on a wee bit of form themselves. They are without Payton and Akaviti, who went off injured. I still think they've got a really good chance of getting themselves up for this game on Saturday, and Livingston back-to-back wins as well. This could be a bit of a Christmas ding-dong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big game for both sides. I've touched upon obviously perfectly, but also for Ross County, this is a big week, a big Christmas week for the Stargaze, because I mean they've got obviously Livingston away tomorrow, which if they can go and get the win, we're looking at the other side in the league and saying we're struggling to see points in here, and also it'd be 2 points behind Livingston if Ross County can go and get a result tomorrow. So it would be a big result for the Stargaze if they can go and pull it off. And then the way St Johnstone Wednesday, obviously. Malky Mackay used the mantra of one game at a time, but this is a big week for the Stargaze. To start with tomorrow at the Tony McIntyre Arena, and it'll be an opportunity to see where Ross County have progressed. I mean, Celtic had to be very, very late to see off the Stargaze on Wednesday night. and it maybe shows that where Ross County are at just now, where they are starting to be a lot more competitive with teams, and they'll want to keep that going tomorrow at the Spaghetti Hut.
I love that, Spaghetti Hut. Time to get our predictions in for this one. It is the last game in the Cinch Premiership this weekend. I'm going to sit on the fence, get a splinter, and go for a 1-each draw.
1-0 Livingston.
1-0 Livingston. So we have went through the games that will be played, hopefully, this weekend. Just going to go through the comment section before we wrap up. There was a question in here about Kevin Graham's book. It's from Feed the Bear. When is Kevin Graham's book on sale? It is on sale now. You can get it from axom.net. It's 7 Years of Henrik for some Henrik Larsson poetry. So look out for that one. Bobby Sutherland coming in to say, any chance of Kyogo playing on Sunday? We spoke about that earlier in the show. You can catch up on that. We think that if he does have the chance to play, then Ange will probably throw him in. Maybe some mind games going on there. Look, it's a massive card of Scottish football to look forward to this weekend. Hopefully it isn't the last one that we see this side of the new year. With everything that's going on at the minute.
Sorry, I've got some news. The testing protocols and whatever have you is getting wrapped up as of Monday.
Well, we'll see if that's enough to keep the football on, whether we'll be able to go and support our teams, because in Scottish football, fans are the lifeblood of the game. And without fans, what's the point? We saw what it was like last season. No one really wants to go back to that. So fingers crossed that we can get through this tough period. This may be the last Friday show because next week it will be Christmas Eve. We'll have to look and see what the schedule is like next week. But if you don't hear from us beforehand, then we wish everyone who is watching a very Merry Christmas. I know, David, you'll be back for a couple of shows next week. So you'll get the chance to do that. I might not be. So to everyone who's watching on here on A State of Mind, please like and share, subscribe, do all that. Leave us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the show today. Enjoy the football this weekend and stay safe. And to all who are watching, have a very Merry Christmas when it comes. Take care.